Hey everybody, I'm Steve Giralt, and with me today I have Barry,
Hi guys, how are you?
and we are here in the garage in Brooklyn in New York City, and we wanted to kind of talk to you and just share our thoughts, feelings, emotions, everything that comes into being a commercial director and photographer, visual engineer, all the titles. We have all the titles, right? You too?
That's right.
Yeah.
And obviously, I've flown all the way from the UK, saw an opportunity. I asked Steve, who was kind enough to agree to a bit of a mashup, me and him, getting back to you guys and giving you as much info as we can.
Yeah, so this is going to be exciting. You guys sent us some questions via Instagram. We're going to kind of go into those. Some were really, really deep and really exciting, and some were really silly. But, some, they all have purpose. Let's just say that. Just to give us a quick intro, the 5-minute bio on like how you got here,
Right. Well, I think part of this is down to Steve as well. Lots of inspiration. Wind back maybe even 5 years ago, wanted to achieve new heights. Really push the limits of what I was doing. Don't know if you guys know, but I come from a stills background.
Me too.
Yeah, which was many years ago. We're talking. I graduated from university in 1996. So many years of stills. Film was becoming very, very popular. The rise of content. So probably around 10 years ago now, I first did my first film.
Was it a music video, documentary? What did you do?
No, my very first thing I ever filmed was a glass of red wine.
Oh.
I was very fortunate enough to have a very good friend of mine who used to work for Hasselblad.
Oh,
he sold me
nice.
my very first Hasselblad camera. He then went to work for Red.
Yeah.
And he was like, hey, I've got a 6K Monstro carbon fiber, looked incredible. I'm going away for 3 weeks. I'll leave it with you. Let's see what you can come up with. I was like, brilliant. So I tinkered away. I did a Tom Ford fragrance and the red wine.
You started drinking red wine first?
Yeah, and funny enough, that red wine is still on my website. I just love it. It was when I had no imagination block. I just wanted to achieve something that was very new to me. So it's got a little place in my heart. I'm not going to get rid of it. It's one of the first ones.
Red wine has a special place in my heart.
Yeah. And then I think that was great. But then I realized just how expensive film was and what was involved in film, the production, and it, very much a team effort. Stills is very much, isolated. You can work by yourself. I quickly realized with film, it's like, to build up a crew, use the right equipment, to appeal to the bigger clients. And then slowly getting into high frame rate that I always wanted to do. And I'm really maybe a year before COVID, I started to really kind of get into that world. And I used to follow a lot of what Steve was up to as well, lots of inspiration and ideas there. And just make sure I got involved with the right people, using some motion control as well, borrowing a Phantom for a couple of days here and there. And
We'll get into those questions too, about how did you get your first motion control shoot? Like, how did you get to play with it? How did you get your first Phantom shoot? Because these are, to me, I remember it was like, I don't have a $500,000.
Yeah.
I'm not going to get a Phantom lights, a robot, like all these things. So,
I was
why don't we just dive into it? Here we go. Let's start with that.
Yeah.
How did you get into being able to use like the Phantom the first times?
I think one of the first times was actually during COVID. One of the hire companies left a Phantom VO with one of the guys who I worked with G6 back in the UK. They were shutting up shop. They didn't know what was going to happen. They said, you know what, we'd rather this camera was just left with you. And luckily, Rami at G6 was like, hey, I've got this VO. Do you want to come down for a few days and do something? So they only hooked up to motion control. I was telling him my vision, what I really wanted to achieve. And we had like no rush, but the problem is we're very, very short on light, which I knew at the time, but it was typically we were using the very first Lowry Probe lens, f14. So I had f14, no light, Phantom, because all the higher places were shut. So all I had was two 300D apertures to get to 1,000.
Right about
so
here.
I was literally just smashing it right in, no diffusion. And I actually created exactly what I wanted. It wasn't the best, as in I could have done a little bit more of the glass and sprayed it, but we had no one there. It was just me and him. And I think one of your shots was a little bit of an inspiration because it was coffee, espresso meeting milk.
Oh, yeah.
And it was going into the glass from a height, and I was pouring it manually. I was just going,
man.
3, 2, 1, go. And the robot was zoomed down. And I got what I wanted. I did a little espresso drop, but that was a enlightening moment for me. I was like, right, this is brilliant. It's what I want to do. Rami was like, look, I want to work with you quite a bit from now on. That's any time where I got downtime, let's do something. So as long as I had a great idea, he was like, right, come in the studio.
Amazing.
So the more I kind of thought, right, I want to do this, and then he'll add his craziness to it.
Cool.
And then, a couple of jobs came up literally from that, because obviously Rami knows a lot of directors. And then one of the first jobs after that was for Bailey's, and they wanted me to replicate that exact shot, immersive shot of the Bailey's being poured.
Like, I've done this before.
Yeah, so I was like, right, brilliant,
Now
done. And then that elevated my work again. And then I did a huge project for Mountain Dew. And again, that was based on, because I've done high frame rate.
Right.
They wanted some rigs, and they wanted some really cool ideas. And I actually got involved quite early on that job as well.
Cool.
I had a hand in some of what was achievable, what wasn't in the day. We could go into some of that.
That's the ultimate question.
So yeah, it's a massive learning curve. On the Mountain Dew, well, I must say, I was director, but I did have a very experienced DOP on hand, but not because we couldn't light, but I just wanted that extra backup. It's the first job that I really had. It was 12 days filming.
That's a lot. No, during all the help you get.
And I just wanted that kind of insight as well to bounce a few ideas off me. I had a little bit more experience with liquids and filters, and I was still learning. I knew what I wanted to do, but I didn't know exactly. Right. In the film world, in the photography world, you aim for perfection, and it was nice to work with a good experienced DOP. Sure. But we worked together because I knew what I was doing as well. Everything was very efficient. Cool. So that's how I got into
your first Phantom motion control, and then then let the door to the other thing.
I must say the final thing is that it was always something that I thought was very out of reach for me, and how am I ever going to do this, and to elevate myself. But I think if you just really push forwards and really work hard at it, and just try and just get in there with the right people, you can do it. But
no, and it's funny, my story is not that different either. Same thing, still photographer, shooting, and I shot, first thing I did was shoot a music video, because people were like, you do a documentary music video because they don't need good sound. And I did that, and then I started shooting product stuff. There's a rental house here in town called Adorama that they close for the Hasidic Jewish holidays, and they'll give you a special on the camera. So I rented a red camera, and I got to keep it for like a week and a half for a 3-day amount of money. So I was like, okay, I opened up the camera, aimed it at something for a while, poured some red wine and some beer and all sorts of things. And then eventually I found actually a DP that owned a Phantom in town that was a friend of mine. And they're like, oh yeah, he's going to be in Europe shooting a project for like a month. He's not going to use the camera. Like, maybe talk to him and see maybe you could work something out where you could rent it to him from him cheap. That's exactly what I did. I was like, oh, and then exactly the same story. Oh wait, light. What? Yeah. I don't have enough lights. I have all these still strobes. That didn't help me much. So that's where I actually started playing with making my own LED light things, which we could get into in a little bit. Because I was just like, oh, well, I could buy a 500 watt LED chip and throw some power at it, and here we go, I got a light. So that's very similar. And then for me, my first actual Phantom shoot for where I actually used it on a robot was actually the Burger Drop video that you guys all know, where basically it was actually same thing. It was like I called the people up that had robots in New York City, and it was just like, I want to use a robot. And they're like, okay, let's work it out, and they luckily helped me accomplish my shot, because they're like, that shot seems really cool. I showed them all the rigs I was making and all the stuff, and they're like, all right, let's do this. I
think that's the point we're saying about to engage the people you're dealing with. If you go over with I just want, it's not going to happen. But you're like, I can help you to look great as well because of this idea, and can you help me achieve this? So people are more likely to say, you know what,
Yeah.
Brilliant.
No, I think if you see your passion, I think that's the biggest selling thing you're selling. You're just like, I have a good idea and I'm really passionate about it and I'm going to not stop until I get exactly the shot I want. And hey, do you want to help me? And that could go a long way. I mean, we've helped people here before that are just like, hey, oh my God, I have this video I want to do and whatever it is. And if we can, we'll try, because I think that's an important part of this industry. And, we're both on the same page about why we're doing this right now, is just like to try to share information and help the next generation of creators that want to, do what we do and learn about how do we get there. And just, like you were saying, it's like, I also thought it was impossible to like go from even renting a red camera to shooting with the Phantom on a robot. And, but if you go, it doesn't happen overnight. You just go one step, 1 foot after the other. It's like you can get there, and it's a matter of, just try to will it into existence in a way. You know?
You have to really want it, really maximize that one opportunity you might have. And like you say, just make it count.
And the first job, you better knock it out of the park. Like, it's not about making
for your promise.
It's about making the client happy, making images that are beautiful, and like telling a good story.
That's the point. 10 good story. I mean, it's always the best work comes sometimes from limited resources as well. It makes you try harder. My university that I went to was always renowned, went to Central St Martin's in London, and they couldn't care less about you. It was like, you want that, go and make it happen. We're not going to babysit you.
Sure.
If you want that camera, go and find it, go and do something, go and get sponsorship, promise them the world, but we're not going to help you. And that's seen me through my whole career now. It's like, no one is here to babysit you. Right. If you want anything, go and get it done, go make it happen. Otherwise, who cares? No, you can, no one's going to come to you for anything. So I've always strived to be like, right, I need this to happen. I want that. I want this. And if I want that, you've got to work for it, put yourself out.
And I think, to me, I think it's also important to keep in mind, there's like, I always say it's 3 pillars to things. There's the creative side, there's the business entrepreneurial side, and then there's the technical side. And you need all 3 of those things to accomplish what we do, basically. So like, you got to work on all.
There's something very interesting. I saw Christopher Nolan do a reel on Instagram, and he was saying he made it his job to do everyone else's job. So he really understood what everyone else went through. So then when he called on them, he knew the limitations, he knew what they could achieve, he knew what he was asking. Otherwise, he'd just be putting out all these things and everyone would be like, what do you mean? Like, so he made sure he did every role, so then he had full control of the set, which is...
Well, it was super smart.
He's an inspiration. Christopher Nolan's... I think we're very lucky to have someone like him still in the business. Otherwise, it would all be
still going.
to